Hey, Baruch, how you
Hey,
doing?
Jeremy. Thank God, doing well. How about you?
Super excited for tonight. Just
Yes.
so super stoked. We have a really cool guest, and I mean, you and I we spoke about it this morning in the
Hmm.
show. It's one of our favorite topics.
Yes.
Growth and all that stuff. It's. I mean, I'm a growth fanatic, so anything that has to do with growth, I'm like, sign me up.
I think
So
it's also it's the foundation for everything that you and I do in business, but also in personal life, but also it's kind of the foundation for our spiritual life because we're not going with organized religion thing, but our spiritual life, right? And we
sure,
were talking about that all week this week.
yeah.
So it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awesome episode.
I know. I literally don't want to wait a second longer. I'm bringing in Jesse Futia.
Let's do it.
He is the man of the hour. Here he is, Jesse. One of the coolest people I've ever met. Let me just tell you.
Yomi, Baruch, it's a privilege to be here with both you guys, and to be here on this episode of Growth is probably the most special part of all, because like Baruch said, I truly believe it is the foundation, to so much success out there, and being able to pick yourself up after these mistakes to learn and to continue to grow. So again, it's a blessing, it's a privilege to be here with both you, and I can't thank you enough for having me on.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well,
I
we're
just want to
really
jump in.
excited to
I
have
just
you
want to
here.
jump in and say one thing. First and foremost, every time I am talking to or have any kind of connection to somebody in service, my heart just warms up. So thank you so much for your service and everything that you're doing for our country and just in general. I think the US has a great army, so for the world, in my personal opinion. So thank you for everything that you do. Truly thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's a privilege to be here with both of you. And what you guys are doing is true service and helping people grow and become irresistible and attain, their true potential. So thank you for everything you guys do. And like I said, I thought the episode this morning was a blast. If people haven't checked that out yet, go check it out. And this is going to be the perfect icing to the cake. So
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's give everybody a little bit of an introduction to who you are. So, as everybody knows now, our guest tonight is Jesse Futia, fascinating individual, I must say. He's 26 years old, a prior U.S. Army Ranger. I don't know, is that something that you ever really leave though? So he's a U.S. Army Ranger. As Jeremy mentioned, he has provided a great service to our country, so we're extremely grateful for that. He began investing in real estate at the age of 20 with his family, and he helped build that portfolio to 50 total bedrooms, which is a very interesting way of looking at real estate. And I know we're going to talk more about that because that's fascinating as well. At the end of 2020, he made the jump into commercial real estate and is now focusing on self-storage, RV parks, mobile home parks, and alternative investments. Jesse, welcome to the show. I mean, we've already welcomed you, but we're welcoming you again. It's funny because for years I always heard about real estate, and I always said, there's no way I could do it. But the more I speak to Yermi and the more I speak to people that Yermi is introducing me to, and now that we've got to we got to speak to you a little bit. It's like it's very different, and especially the way you present it. But before we get into that, because I know now that I've dropped a massive bomb that people are wondering what it is, but we're not going there yet. Let's start off with the way we always start off. Actually, a little bit differently. Okay. Sorry, you guys. My brain is all over the place. When I told Jeremy, today was one of the most Wednesdays I've ever had. So Jesse, let's get back to you so I can stop talking. Tell us a little bit about, or tell us a lot of it about what you do now, kind of how you got there, the story, I guess your life story, kind of where you started from and where you are now, what you do, and then we'll dive further into that.
Yeah. And again, it's a privilege to be here. I'm having a blast already. I love the live show format because it's just sending it live. There is no editing. I love
No
that. So
editing.
please keep doing that. But yeah, it's great to meet everybody. For everyone out there who doesn't know, I'm Jesse Futia. I grew up in upstate New York, right outside the capital of Albany. And I got started in real estate in college. So I was 20 years old. I went to a state school in Albany and I was moving off campus. All the houses that like we were looking at to live in were all these like crappy houses. To be honest, they were owned by what I'd call probably a slumlord or someone that just pulls money out of the property, rips the tenants off, doesn't care about making the property better or whatever. So with no real estate experience at all, I pitched my father, and he doesn't have any real estate experience. And I said, Dad, like, I think we can buy this house together. Obviously I can live in the house. I can help manage it. I can help find the tenants. I can rent it. I'll be there 24/7. Let's go on this venture together. And that was a good idea. 6 years ago, that now we've scaled to 7 total properties and 50 total bedrooms. So Baruch made that comment of it's an interesting way to look at real estate, because in student housing, you're able to rent by the bedroom as opposed to renting by the unit, because none of the tenants are related to each other. They're all, college kids. It's not, families or anything like that. So that first property was a duplex. It was a 4-bedroom, 1-bath on each side of it. So it was 8 total bedrooms. So this one duplex we bought, and it rented similar to an 8-unit apartment building does, because we rented it by the bedroom. So that was our first experience. And we set ourselves away from the pack immediately by taking care of our tenants, putting that monthly cash flow back into the property. I mean, I'm talking, we're putting stainless steel appliances in this property. We're doing personal carpentry, redoing the bathrooms, the kitchens, not things that you see in your typical college house, or that, kids going to a state school even, that, get to experience. So, and I think it speaks to the level of product that we provided, seeing that, we're at 100% occupancy. We're at a waiting list out the door and around the corner. People are texting us on a weekly basis. Do you have any openings? And we've never invested any money into marketing. It's literally just been word of mouth by providing a product that's better than the competition at a price that beats the competition. It's a no-brainer. But that's just a little bit of how I got started. And then I'd say probably about 18 or 24 months ago, probably right around the end of 2020, I kind of made the decision of like, hey, there's these guys out there that are buying these apartment buildings and these mobile home parks and these self-storage. I was so naive back then. I thought these were all billionaires that owned these spots, until I came across the world of commercial real estate syndication, which, from a 40,000 foot view is we're just pooling money from private investors to buy larger assets. So I've gone face first into that world. I've networked, my butt off over the last 18 months. I found my way onto several teams here, which is awesome. I love adding value through, many different ways, connecting with investors, boots on the ground, due diligence. And now we focus on self-storage, RV parks and mobile home parks, primarily in Oklahoma, Texas, and really the Sun Belt states as a whole. But I want to get talking about growth. I want to get what your guys' thoughts are on that. But that's a little bit about me, Baruch. Where I started, a little bit of the journey, and where I'm at today. So wherever you guys want to go from here, just let me know.
Awesome.
That's incredible. I mean, just the story of how you started with the whole, like, the rooms and like the thinking out of the box in that kind of way, is in itself exceptional. It's just amazing. And then the fact that you really set yourself apart from everybody else. And I know that when you and I met, I was just blown away when you told me that, you're all about, like, your mission is really to improve the life of the renter, the person who's renting that apartment, the person who's giving them a good experience. I mean, I hated every single minute of renting. When I was renting any apartment, I hated every single minute of it. It's like the fear that you get when you're calling about a clogged toilet that is not your fault or whatever, and then just the reaction of the landlord and stuff like that. And to hear a person who's coming from the landlord perspective and saying something like, how could I improve the life of the renter, to me is something called irresistible, and something called exceptionally irresistible. So that earned you the invitation to this discussion. And when we spoke a lot about growth, and you seem to be somebody who really appreciates growth. And that's why we figured, okay, this topic is all about growth. And, I like to always say, it's an expression that my grandfather used to tell us, that life is a treadmill. If you're not walking forward, you're falling on your face. And I think you share something about that. And I'd love just to hear one quick sort of thought about that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Jeremy, and what your grandfather believes. And I think it's easy we live in this instant gratification world, and we live in this social media world, which, I love LinkedIn, and trust me, social media, it's a blessing. It can also be a curse because, we see so much success out there, and you see, I closed this building, or I closed this, or I took down this property. And it's so easy to think that, wow, he or she out there is crushing it. They've never made a mistake. They've never had to
Right.
grow. But I mean, I can't tell you that, with my personal story, it couldn't be further from the absolute truth. I have never been naturally good at anything in my life. I don't care what it is. Like, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
I tell my wife all the time, like, when I'm starting something new, hey, the first 90 days of this, I'm just going to be failing. So just get ready. But it's those people, Yermi, I think, who are willing to push through that failure, see it as an opportunity to grow, and use it as leverage to go on to the next opportunity, that are the ones who really, truly find success. Because I think it's easy to get down on yourself in this world. Like I said, you're going on social media every day and you're like, man, oh man, I'm not getting after it like so-and-so is out there who just closed another, property. But even that person who's closing those properties, month after month, that he or she definitely went through a time in their career where they failed and had to grow from it. And taking every opportunity as an opportunity to get better. So that's kind of like my, 2 cents on it. But I just love talking about growth. Sorry.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. I don't know, apologize for even. I mean, it's on that the note of social media and how we compare ourselves. One of my mentors once said it, like, Instagram is like this, right? Everybody looks at Instagram and they're following the 5 people, right? They're following the guy who's constantly in the gym. They're following the guy who's a stay-at-home dad. They're following the guy, and I'm speaking from a man's perspective. They're following the guy who is an investor, and then they're following the guy who's successful. They're following these 5 different types of people who are successful individually or they're portraying success in this one category. And now all of a sudden we have to be like, I have to be that successful in the gym. I have to be that successful in investment. When in reality, the guy who's in the gym all day is probably not working a 9-to-5 job, or is not working.
Yeah.
And we take all of this and we force ourselves to try and be like that, and then we burn ourselves out because it's not possible to do that. So talking about Instagram, the social media made me think of that. It's interesting, kind of to loop back a little bit. Talking about exceptionally irresistible, which is the premise of this whole show, and as Yermi and I were talking about previously, the growth is, and we said the growth is at the core of who we are. And if we're not growing, then we're not doing. Today I posted, on the way to taking my kids to school, we were listening to Frozen 2, much to my chagrin. But there's a line in there. It's some things never change, like the whatever. Some things stay the same. And here I am pondering at 7:30 in the morning, half asleep. What is the difference between some things never change and some things stay the same? And in reality, I couldn't come up with anything other than the fact that in both cases, well, you're not growing. And we as individuals need to grow. But on the topic of exceptionally irresistible, the way we define it is somebody who sees what is the norm for myself as an individual, but also for my industry, let's say. And then how can I do a little bit more? And then irresistible is that idea of being irresistible, attracting people to you because of who you are. When you were talking, going through your story, you said, you're talking about this, the renting out of bedrooms for college students. What I got from that was you saw a need that needed to be filled. First of all, we need rooms, but not only do we need rooms, we need a normal living experience. And you filled that need. And I think that's the core of growth is, what is the need that we need in ourselves that we need to fill? And then how do we fill that? And that's where growth comes from. It's identifying kind of those gaps that need to be filled in our life. But then also, again, irresistible is about what we're doing for others. So how do I fill the needs, fill the gaps for other people as well? And then the other thing that you said, which really got me, was like, you had no experience in real estate. You just, again, you saw that need, you figured it out, you found a way of getting the money, the funding together, and then you just went and did it. And now here you are, you're successful at it, which is incredible. So I wanted to bring those things out just because those were things I noticed, and I wanted to share that again.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even starting back then, again, it was terrifying. We had never, me and my dad had never owned a rental property or anything like that. I think The only piece of real estate he had ever owned was his personal home. And obviously I'm just a
Right.
20-year-old college kid at that point. I'd never owned a personal home or anything. And yeah, it was terrifying. And there was so many mistakes, like even throughout the years that we've made. But it's like, I can't tell you, it's the people who are willing to accept those mistakes and grow from those mistakes, which is what I think really creates an irresistible person. Someone who's willing to be coached, someone who's willing to be mentored, criticized. There's so many people out there, I think, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this too, who don't want to, be criticized, or, it's everyone's fault except theirs. When we talk about being a leader and a leader of a team, and, if you want to be that, that entrepreneur, that business owner that's irresistible and who's willing to grow, I would tell you that, like, the buck stops with you. Like, you are responsible for everything the team does or fails to do. Which, I got that experience obviously in the military, but I've also gotten that experience, with real estate over the years as well. So just to the points that you're making, Baruch.
Actually, I love what you're saying about that, go out to fail in a sense. You should. I think we had a comment here just a quick second ago by Jackson Kalame. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. But he was basically saying like how, expectation is the root of all heartache. He's quoting William Shakespeare. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I really want to tie that in to a two-part question that we have. What is growth and how do we grow? You're sharing your story about the mistakes that you've done, and that it seems to me at least that based on what you're saying is like you're going out to fail. You're aware that you're going to be failing. You're not expecting, I don't know how you say it. Like, you're not expecting success overnight in a sense. You are aware that there's going to be trouble along the way in a sense. To me, I connect that to growth, and I know our discussion was a lot about that. But I want to hear in your story, how did you define your growth? Like, how were you growing? And well, actually, how did you define growth? So what is growth to you? And then how, like, what were you doing to facilitate that growth?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's a great question. And yeah, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. And throughout my real estate and my military career, what I've seen, what is growth? It's again, it's good. It's being able to admit that, hey, I'm not good at A, B, and C, or maybe I suck at A, B, and C. And there's nothing wrong with being, being realist and knowing and self-aware. Sorry, that was the term I was looking for. Being self-aware of something that you're good at, or maybe it's something that you're bad at. And I think, those people that are willing to be self-aware and look in the mirror and say, I suck at whatever it is, running on the treadmill, or finding deals, underwriting deals, we'll keep this real estate related. It's those people that wake up in the morning, can identify that, and then they go and they underwrite a dozen deals that day. Wow. And they underwrite 20 deals that week, or 50 deals. I think we live in this world where, from a growth perspective, it's easy to be comfortable and, let's stay doing the things we're comfortable at. Hey, I'm good at, due diligence. I'm just going to learn due diligence and practice my due diligence. And I don't care about underwriting. And I'm taking this back to a personal instance because I'm terrible at Excel. I am absolutely atrocious at Excel. If you guys are really good, that's awesome. But I'm bad. So that feeds into a bad Baruch too. I like that. That feeds into really, to be good at underwriting, you need to be good at those Excels and stuff like that. And, if you want to be a good real estate investor or entrepreneur, everyone needs to be looking at the deal and being able to analyze it and underwrite it. So from a growth perspective, I think it's the people who are willing to wake up and say, hey, I suck at underwriting, but now I'm going to go underwrite 25 deals this week. It's those people who are willing to identify that shortfall, and then not only identify, but how am I getting after it to solve that problem, to fix that problem, to close the knowledge gap, to bring more value to the team that's going to help everyone excel in the long run. I've got this awesome quote, and that was a great Shakespeare quote, but I have an awesome quote that hangs in my office by Archimedes. And it's, if I had a lever long enough and a fulcrum in which to place it on, I can lift the world. And it just goes to that such powerful that we're here talking about growth tonight. And that, again, if you have the right tools and you just keep, working, keep feeding that passion project every single day, it's not going to happen overnight. But over months, over a year, years, whatever, you look back behind you, the amount of growth that you're going to see is going to be, astronomical. So yeah, I don't know if that got after your question or not, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. So
that's excellent. It's funny. There's a what do you call it? An Instagram or a TikTok reel audio that's been going around recently about how everybody's afraid of failing, developing a new skill, and it's the fear of the skill or whatever. But if you were just to take that step, that's what's running through my mind now when you're talking about all this. But the interesting thing I want to point out there is, so the growth comes from identifying a weakness, let's say, or an area where you could fail, right? An area where there's something you want to do. Here's where I'm potentially going to fail, charging ahead anyways. But then, like you brought to light, it's getting the right tools and resources. Like if you don't have it, like, sure, I would fail in real estate right now because I don't know the first thing about real estate. I mean, I have very limited information based off of what your conversation and then speaking to Jeremy and speaking to my brother who's in real estate, but I don't have the tools and resources right now. So at some point you have to go out and get those tools and resources, and in whatever industry an individual may be in, you have to go out and pursue that so that you don't fail as much, or you fail in a different way that you can then pick yourself up and then recharge at it. So it's not like, okay, I'm gonna fail at this, I'm gonna fail at jumping off the bridge and surviving. Well, no, get a parachute first or a bungee cord and then jump. That way it's like the failure isn't so extreme. So that was just something, again, that's that idea of you can prevent failure to a certain degree, or as John C. Maxwell likes to say, fail forward. So go out there, try it, and then fail in an aspect, learn from that, go at it again. Who was it that said that? See, Rick Davis is just on point with every single week. I love it.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it was Michael Jordan that said, or I'm probably not. Maybe it was. I don't know. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky. Okay. There you go, Jeremy.
I don't know. Hey, my Canadianism has to come out somewhere.
Jeremy's a big hockey guy. That must be what it is.
Okay. Please forgive me. I apologize.
No, that's good. I love that quote too. So
it kind of reminds me of how we butchered basketball in our last episode in our I apologize to all basketball players and pivots and all that stuff. So
we lost some followers that time.
No, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's, for me personally, at least, it's identifying those shortfalls and then, getting after them and digging after them. And, I'm curious what you guys think on this too. And I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but, we talk about this, this instant gratification world. And I think so many people out there want to skip the growth step. And they want to start on Monday and they want to be living in the Caribbean on Friday or living in Florida, on the beach on Friday. And it's like, man, I can't tell you, I've been doing this for years. And, I'm nowhere near, anywhere near what I would consider to be great or anything like that. If people really want to, I think, grow and become irresistible, I think they have to have that long-term mindset. And just, watering that plant or watering that tree, having that seed grow every single day. And so many people out there, like I said, I think, I don't know if it's just, the generation or if it's social media or what, but I think it's a lot of people out there, they just want that instant gratification. And I heard an awesome quote the other day that was like, hey, don't take the short road, take the long road. It's actually a lot less crowded going the long route, and you'll actually get there quicker by going the long route because everyone's trying to go the short route and skip that growth step. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but
and I mean, I'm going to jump on this one because it actually ties into the next part of our discussion. To me, it's really that tying that growth with the meaning and the purpose. So those who find meaning and purpose in money or whatever it is, then they'll be trying to skip along the roads, but to me, at least, and kind of just to respond a little bit to your to what you're saying, and then I want to hear what you think about how you tie growth to your meaning and purpose. I remember basically a Talmudic story. There was a story in the Talmud that was talking about an individual who's trying to walk to Jerusalem from his city, country, wherever it was. And he comes to a fork in the road, and he sees this little child sitting on a stone, and he asks the child which, there's a fork in the road, which direction to Jerusalem? And the child says, well, which one do you want? So he says, what do you mean? Like, I want to get there. So the child basically tells him, well, there's the short and the long route, or there's the long and the short route. Which one do you want? And so at first the guy says, well, give me the short one, So he goes, oh, so the short and the long one? He goes, yeah, I guess, So he goes, this way. So the guy takes that road, and he ends up like he could see Jerusalem right there, 5-10 minute walk, whatever it was. But there was a big field of what was it, thorns, or however it interprets that way. And so it would really, really be painful to walk through all that, and it would take him forever to get through the thorn field to actually reach the gates of Jerusalem. And so he ends up turning around, taking that other 5-10 minutes back the way he came from, going the other direction, added another 20 minutes or so to his walk, and then the additional 30 minutes, whatever it took on the other road. But it was straight, it was clear, it was easy, and he eventually gets there. And so that's really talking to what you're saying, is that, and that's one thing, I don't mean to bash an entire industry, but multi-level marketing, one thing that I didn't like about it was, I like the concept and the principle of it because it does include community and stuff like that. But when I was involved, and when people were trying to get me into their thing, the entire video presentation was about the yachts that you could buy, the Bentleys that you're going to drive, the penthouses that you're going to live in. And none of that ever spoke to me, because I don't believe life is that easy, in a sense, and it also isn't my full purpose to have these kind of things. It just didn't tie in. So I think I'm more of a purpose-driven person, and that to me is how growth and purpose connects. I'm just curious your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great, story that you gave, and great thoughts. And I think that purpose and growth that, are super intertwined and super connected, and, where one is, the other has to be. And I think when I look at, my personal story, and what, what's my purpose here, and how have I used that to grow over the years, I think that, purpose has to be so much more than just about, the bottom line, and, dollars in a bank account somewhere, or, money, or zeros and commas. It's like that purpose has to be tied, in my opinion, to something bigger, something greater, helping, your family, live a life of, time freedom, or helping other people achieve time freedom, and, financial freedom, and invest in real estate, or whatever. But when that purpose, I think, is tied to something that's bigger than just to, number of commas or zeros, I think when you're in those difficult times, and that growth is ongoing, and, maybe you're getting kicked in your face every week, like I was, or getting those LOIs denied all the time, it makes that growth, so much more worth it. It makes it,
Right.
I think it makes it easier to persevere, or, to work through it, when, the light at the end of the tunnel isn't just, some numbers sitting in a bank account somewhere. It's actual people, real human beings that you're helping in this journey to attain financial freedom,
Right.
by investing in the generational, wealth building asset of real estate. When that purpose is something bigger than you, it's bigger than, everyone around you. It's just a higher calling. It makes that growth period, just so much more, feasible and doable than, just having it tied to a bank account or something like that. But yeah, curious what you guys think on that.
So, got a question for you. Asking for a friend. I think I said that in the first episode, and we all lost it because I was very clearly not asking for a friend. I'm totally on board with purpose-driven, whatever it is. But oftentimes, when you're getting kicked in the face, and when things are rough, like, right, I work my regular day job. I'm a teacher. I've been doing it for over 13 years now. I've got my sights set on bigger and better things. I've got my sights set on a much bigger purpose. In addition to that, we're doing this business that Yerby and I have. We're doing the podcast. There's so much more going on. And oftentimes it's difficult let's be transparent. Let's be real here. It's difficult to, even though I have that vision, that idea of that purpose, right? It's hard to connect it to the daily grind of, I just got home finally took care of the kids, ate dinner. It's 8 o'clock. I am wiped. By the way, it's only 6:30 here, and I've got another hour and a half going. An hour and a half to go, and I'm already wiped. And I know that come 8 o'clock, well, that's when my reading starts. That's when my learning starts. That's when, content creation, all that has to start. And oftentimes it's hard to, even though I know the purpose, and hopefully there's nobody else that experiences this, because hopefully everybody else is so set. But I'm sure there are other people that are experiencing the same thing. It's hard to attach that purpose and turn it into action. Turn it into actionable steps. Emotional steps to take and then go forward. So, what are your thoughts as to what can somebody do if they're at a place where they have this really big dream, and we're talking about purpose, we're talking about impact, whether for themselves, for their family, creating the generational legacy, like you said, or also helping and impacting other people. But it's just so hard to get yourself up from that couch at 8 o'clock and get out there and do that. There's got to be something to bridge the gap between knowing what you need to do and then actually doing it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, you guys are amazing. Can we just take a 2-second break? You guys are amazing to have me on this night, because I love talking this exact topic, and
Awesome.
and you guys are just moderating this perfectly. I think 99% of people are in this situation, Baruch, where if someone's listening to your podcast, somebody's listening to your podcast while they're in the car, and maybe they are driving to that job they love, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're working that 9 to 5 and it's soul draining, or it's they hate it or whatever, and it's just they're just doing it to get to the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and they get home and they're in that situation, Baruch. They've got the house to take care of. They have to give their time to their spouse, which is extremely important, time to their kids, which is extremely important, supper time, bedtime, homework time, and before you know it, it's 10 o'clock at night, and you got to wake up in whatever how many hours. So I think that so many people are in this situation. People probably listening right now are in this situation, and to give my own perspective on it. I mean, I'm kind of in this situation. I'm thankful that I have this great job in the military, and it does have great purpose in me, and I do love it, and it is a phenomenal opportunity. I'm grateful for it. But listen, I'm a soldier from 5 o'clock in the morning till whenever that day is over, which could be 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock or later. And then it's time to come home. And just as you said, or, I said, give time to my spouse, give time to my family. And then it's time to do real estate, because, what I've come to the realization, and this is, I don't care what anyone says, this is so true. Nobody's going to build your dream for you. You know what I mean? And it's so true. If you don't put time and allocate time to that passion project, and again, I'm using real estate because it's mine. It could be carpentry, it could be anything, whatever. If you're not allocating time, and I know it sucks at the end of the day, but you've got to just find that burning purpose and that burning why, and that demand and that growth to get better, to allocate time to that passion project at the end of the day. Because there are so many times where I come home and it's sometimes it's a crappy day at work, and I'm home at 6-7 o'clock, and I'm doing real estate till midnight. And again, I think it's so easy to, look back on a Friday and look back on the whole week and be like, man, we submitted 3 LOIs and we got all kicked back, man, this week sucks. But no, man, think about the growth that came from those 3 LOIs. Right. Think about how much you learned from those 3 LOIs. Think about, man, I'm 3 more. If it's Jesse Futia, I'm 3 LOIs closer to that acceptance. That's how I'm going to bed on Friday night. Nice. It's so easy to look back on the 5 days and think that, man, not a whole lot happened. But, look back where you were 6 months ago. I love doing this in my office. I do this all the time. I'll stop and be like, after a crappy day, I'll be like, well, think of where I was 12 months ago. Wow, I had 1 LOI sent out. I would get nervous about sending 1 LOI. We sent 6 this week. Look at how much more traction we're getting, how much more investors we're speaking to, how many more people we're helping invest in real estate. I'm going off of my soapbox now. It was amazing, and that was such a great question, Baruch, and I just love talking it. So for me, it's a long-term mindset, and it's building and feeding that passion project at the end of the day, which is, as you said, Baruch, it's so tough to do. So
right. Awesome.
I love it. And it's actually tying into the last segment of this show. But right before we jump into that, this is the part of the show where we invite the audience to share with us their voice and what it is that they have to say about this topic. We love hearing what everybody else has to say. Baruch and I spoke for 20 minutes today earlier, in our podcast. Here we are speaking with the awesome Jesse, for about 45 minutes is the length of this show. But we open up the floor to the audience in Clubhouse. That's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. There are links in our LinkedIn, and if you want, you can reach out to us, or you just go on Clubhouse and search for our club or the room or whatever they call it. Exceptionally irresistible. There should be only one. And so over there, you're gonna have an opportunity to share with us what you have to say. And so, every voice matters, and we definitely want to create that space for you to share that. So once again, we hope to see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time in the Clubhouse. But for now, we want to wrap up with, I love this discussion so much. And Baruch, you brought up such a question that my head was like, wow, Jesse, if I was at 26 years old and asked such a question, like,
Oh my God, you're only 26.
You did so. How old? You're now 26 or so now?
Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, I am 26. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean it's incredible, and that's something I also very much admire, about you. And it really ties into that childhood curiosity in a sense. Not calling you a child, don't worry. but the way I handle my daily stress, I have a lot of it. And there's so much I want to do with my business, and it's such a big purpose. I feel it's so much bigger than me. Whether it's helping businesses grow, or it's in the real estate side of my business as well. Whichever way I look at it, there's a lot of challenges that I have to face on a daily basis, to make sure that I'm reaching my goals. And I'll be honest, I don't always hit those milestones. I'm not following up as much as I should be. There's just like a million tasks in a day that falls on these two shoulders, and it gets tough. That's what it is. And so what I use to get through that is my childhood curiosity. So I just see it as play. I see it as a fun game. How many times do we play that video game where, shucks, we didn't make it through that level, so guess what? We have to restart that level and do it over again. And that sounds very much like your LOIs. So today you only managed to get 3 LOIs. Next week you managed to get 6 LOIs, and so on and so forth. And that's why, to me, I tie growth with purpose and passion, because to me, my purpose and passion is really only going to be determined by what I like to call my headstone. When I'm gone and moved away from this world, that's when I want people to look back and say, well, especially my children, because to me it's all about legacy. I want my children to look back and say, here's what dad or grandpa did. That's what he reached to. So for me, my meaning and purpose is way longer than my lifetime, in a sense. I might as well just have fun doing it while I'm here. So that ties into that child curiosity. I'm curious to hear, how do you bring play or childhood curiosity into that?
Can I interrupt? Not to take your time, because your time is whatever. I just want to highlight a point here. When I was in high school or post high school, I had a study partner who was extremely intelligent, very learned. About 3/4 of the way through the year, I found out that he's 3 years younger than me. And he was one of these study partners that like the school brings in as a teacher. And I found out he's 3 years younger than me. So back then I learned the value of learning from somebody younger. You're actually 26?
Yeah, I'm born in 1995.
Okay. Right. I'm 31. So there's something that people need to understand, and they need to know. Age does not bring credibility and wisdom. If you are not willing to learn from somebody younger than you, who is, got credibility in a certain area, that's failure that is not going to grow from. You have to be willing to humble yourself to learn from somebody who knows what they're talking about, even if, but especially if they're younger than you. So thank you so much, first of all, just for being here and for adding so much knowledge and wisdom to us and sharing with us, because I'm so glad I get to finally learn from somebody not my age and not older than me, but I'm not going to harp on the fact that you're younger than me, but the fact that you're wiser than me in this area. So I just had to point that out there for people to understand that seek out those people that know more, that know better, even if, but especially if they're younger than you. Okay, rant over. Back to you, childhood curiosity.
I just add a little bit of tension. So either he's calling you out on a lie, or you're gonna beat him up later on. But we have
Where's my passport? Where's my driver's license?
we have
That's
Sully
a
Bubble
lie,
saying
dude.
you're
Sully
35.
is a lie.
I'm just creating tension here because that's my job. So
Sully's younger than me. I think he's like 24. But just to that point about Baruch, yeah, I would flip it the other way too and say it's never too old to start. It's never too young to start. It's never too old
100%.
to start. And I love telling this story. Not I'll get to the childhood piece at the end, but I love telling the story of Ray Kroc, and he franchised the McDonald's Corporation at like age in his late 60s or early 70s, and he failed as like a milkshake repairman for decades before he like walked into McDonald's, which at that time was just a sole shop, and like had that light bulb idea at like 70 years old, and he obviously franchised and mass produced it. But yeah, no, it's a great point. I think being humble and being able to learn from someone younger than you, but also the other point, it's never too old to start. I love chatting about that too. But to Yermi's point about the childhood curiosity, I think it comes back to, for me personally, it comes back to, not taking yourself too seriously, whether it's in real estate or if it's in, the military or whatnot. So many people, I think, get stressed out in military situations if things are, we plan a lot of training, and it's so easy for this training to maybe go off in a different direction, or something doesn't manifest the way you planned it. And so many leaders out there will get stressed out, or they'll get, frustrated and, maybe, yell or something like that. But I think it's the leaders who are able to remain calm and not take themselves too seriously and relax. And if you want to tie that back to, being a child, and a child doesn't take things too seriously, but I think it's so important to, not take yourself too seriously, that even when, you're doing these $1 million deals, to, hey, take time to, crack jokes and laugh. And it's all part of the journey, and we're here to have fun. Obviously we're here to, help people invest in real estate, but it's awesome to have fun while you're doing it. But that's me personally. I don't like to take myself too seriously. If it's in the military, if it's in real estate, whatever. I'm out here. Every day is a blessing that we're here, and we can't, forget that at the end of the day, that we're only here for a finite amount of time, and to not take yourself too seriously. Every day is a blessing, and that's at least how I look at that. So
awesome.
Yeah. Mark, you have any? How do you bring childhood into your life, Bart?
How do I bring childhood into my life? I'm a teacher of children. That's how I bring childhood into my life.
I think you shared with me a story that you played soccer with them once or something. You had fun with them.
Just today we were playing kickball.
Nice.
And it's for me, it's interesting because it's a little bit flipped, because I have to remember as a teacher that I'm teaching children, and that it's okay for them to be children, and not everything has to be a lesson or a moral. Or like today, I'm going to be honest, we got into an argument about kickball because the boys got really upset at the way I played a certain play and the way I called a certain play. Because if I'm playing, I'm the ref. I'm either reffing from the side or I'm reffing from the middle of the game. And these kids love winning. I've never seen kids that are so, more competitive. And I'm trying to get them to understand, like, have fun. Like, nobody's paying you to win, right? Yes, win, play, but have fun. So we actually got into an argument, and I have to remember that, okay, wait a second, these kids are just kids, and right now they care about winning. And you know what? That's not a bad thing for kids to want to do, is to be able to win. But, childhood curiosity for me, it's just always wanting to learn, always being willing to learn, always pursuing learning from somewhere. A thought that actually, occurred to me today. I'm like, why? Because I'm going through a lot. I'm trying to figure out my next steps. And I'm like, I realized it's been a while since I sat down or not even sat down, but pursued learning something. Obviously, I love Wednesday because Wednesday is my opportunity to really learn. I get to learn from whoever our guest is, and then Thursday from the Clubhouse. But really pursuing the next level of education, the next step, that to me is childhood curiosity. It's going relentlessly after something. So like, I'm going to dive into real estate. I don't know if I'm going to pursue it any further than just learning about it, but it's interesting. You know, it's fascinating. And now that I know that you can do real estate and be a good, normal person about it and not a jerk of a landlord, you know, that's awesome. So that, I don't know, that to me is childhood curiosity, or that's how I'm applying it.
Alrighty, so that really wraps it up. That's tying it in a bow. That childhood curiosity, and I try to find also in my life different ways of what brings me joy. Right now, thankfully, I'm still working at home, and I do have my little 5-month-old baby there that I get to play with him in the middle of the day if my day is tough or rough or whatever it is, because it kind of like grounds me actually. Taking that 10-15 minutes just to go to his play mat and he's playing there, and then just to join him in with his with him at the play mat and play with him really, really grounds me and reminds me what this is all about. And no matter how hard my day is, I get a chance to really go down to his level, play with him, and remind myself that at the end of the day, this legacy is for him. So that adds to that physical childhood curiosity. And we all have these little aspects in our life that we have the opportunity to. And so part of growth, and I think we mentioned it in the podcast, part of growth is not necessarily going to a course or a school or higher education or whatever. It's these different little things that we could learn in life and that we could take from and grow from it, I guess. So that's really kind of like the last parting words that I wanted to say. And Jesse, I want to give you the opportunity to really, less bits of wisdom to really tie us up. And, if you what you're up to, and if people could connect with you, listen to your podcast, for example, please share that with us.
Yeah, just first things first, what a blessing today was to be with you guys. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm a huge believer that like attracts like, that, the universe has made this happen today. It's pushed the three of us into this room to chat, to add value to the greater world. So I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. Your audience is hilarious. I love it. This is the most fun I've had all week. And yeah, I think the growth mindset, we said it in the beginning, but it's the most important. I think it's the true foundational success or value to all success, where people who are willing to grow, look in that mirror, see their shortfalls, and then attack those shortfalls are going to be the people, in my opinion, who are successful in the end. So it was a privilege to be here with you guys. To anyone listening, I'm a huge LinkedIn fanatic. Connect with me on there. DM me. I always tell everybody I give 30 minutes to anyone. I could care less what your story. I just love networking and chatting with people. So DM me. We can get on a call and chat more if any of the topics today kind of spur your interest. But more than anything about that, Baruch, Jeremy, I'm glad that you two are both my friends and that we had the privilege to do this today. So thank you for having me on.
Likewise. And guys, because he didn't pitch it, I'm pitching it for him. Listen to his podcast. It is one of the most awesome podcasts ever. I enjoy it. I always tell this to everybody that I do not listen to podcasts that are longer than 20 minutes, except Jesse. Just by the way, Jesse's one of the only people I actually listen to longer than 20 minutes because his stuff is great. There will be links in the comments. There's going to be links in the recap in the article that comes out on Friday. And then in this live show, we go back and we edit, the notes and everything. And there's going to be links in there as well. We will make sure to highlight his podcast, because go check him out on LinkedIn. Go check him out on his podcast. This is the man you want to get to know. And if you want to invest in real estate, he's not a bad guy to talk to. So check him out. That wraps it up, guys. Thank you so much again. And I do have to say that next week, unfortunately, we do not have another live show. But we will have a recorded show for you, and there's going to be another cool guest that we're going to bring on. But for our Jewish holidays that are coming up, Passover is coming up. So there's a few weeks where, unfortunately, it doesn't match with our schedule. but we will not keep you hanging. We will have stuff for you. So again, thank you all, and we will stay in touch and see you soon.